But the reason I wanted to talk to Noah and share it with all of you is I think there's a great temptation right now to compare what we're experiencing now to 2008. So, Noah, why is this not exactly a 2008?
Sure. Well, thank you for having me. So I think it has elements of 2008, but this is, I mean, first off, this is something we've never seen before. So let's just say that. I don't think the social economic shutdown element of this on a global scale is kind of unprecedented. And, the sad part of this is that there's going to be a lot of businesses and a lot of people that are financially hurt by this, and we don't know what it's going to look like at the end of it. So in one aspect, it reminds me of 9/11. If you recall 9/11, I don't know if you were in real estate then, but it was everything shut down, and it was a fear-based shutdown. But it wasn't it didn't last long. I mean, the shutdown was weeks and months, and I remember in the weeks after 9/11, buildings were being evacuated, all the time, and that would just kind of reignite the fear a little bit. And it took a few months for things to slowly get back to kind of the way it was before, and then it took about a year for the real estate market to kind of get back to where it was before. When I look at what's going on today, we have this kind of fear. It's for a different reason. We have the shutdown, but it's for a totally different reason, and it's on a much mass scale. So the question really is how long does this all last for? Is this a 1 to 2 month thing? Everyone knows it's at least a month, but is it longer than that? In one element, it's like 9/11 with the shutdown sense and the fear. And the other element, it's like a credit crisis because this has caused another credit crisis. And it's caused a situation where the Federal Reserve had to come in and do massive monetary injections and provide liquidity there to keep the cogs of the financial machine going. They saw that in 2008, and they're like, okay, we've seen this game before. We know what this could be, so let's just get ahead of it. So the response was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it does seem like the response to that on that end has been much faster and much more unified. Can you speak to that a little bit more? I mean, from a layman's perspective, is the idea basically that if you think of the economy as an engine and it's downshifting and slowing down, we want to put a little bit more gasoline in it so it doesn't totally die?
If the economy is this big wheel, and this big wheel has 10 different gears that make the wheel work, and one of those gears is the repo markets, and one of those gears is the commercial paper markets, and one of those gears is the short-term financing markets. Another one of those gears is interbank lending, how banks are lending large amount of money to each other and stress there. So there's all these different gears that kind of backstop this machine, this economic machine. And at the end of the day, your individual people are getting loans, individual small businesses are getting loans, medium businesses are getting loans, and large businesses are getting loans. And if the gears stop in that area, and that area, and that area, then you start to have no lending, and you start to have liquidations, and you start to have defaults and bankruptcies, and it just cascades into a credit event, which is what Lehman Brothers was. And there were signs. You got to look at the credit spreads. And on February 27th, I posted a YouTube video saying credit spreads and sell-offs, trying to explain, like, all right, guys, the red alert is flashing. Here's why, and here's what's going on, and here's why it's flashing. And you got to watch this, and if it keeps going this way, it's going to be really ugly. And it did. And those spreads blew out way higher since then. But basically, when the credit markets are getting rattled and money's looking for safety, it goes into U.S. Treasuries, it goes into U.S. dollars.
Right.
And those U.S. Treasury yields fall. They go lower. At the same time, the yield on investment-grade bonds and high-yield bonds and other assets are going up because of the risk. The risk is going up. So if the yield on those assets are going up and the Treasury yields are going down, that spread widens. And that's what we mean by credit. And that's what kind of happened here. And you could see it. And you could see it, and it was getting worse, 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 and the Fed saw it, and they did a major thing. So now you got the fiscal side. And that's our only hope. Like, the fiscal side is to bridge this gap of shutdown. So many people are going to need money to pay bills. Businesses are going to need money to pay bills. It's the revenue is just going down. The revenue is going way, way down. So the expenses got to go way, way down. So how do people pay their expenses and pay their bills and buy food and pay their mortgages and pay rent? And how do the businesses pay their office rent and salary people?
Right.
That's what needs to get addressed now.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have basically some ingredients, some similarities to 2008, but we also
Yeah.
have more of an external stimulus of 9/11